Honestly, from the time I learned how to thread the machine, my life changed. It's giving eldritch horror in that shot. You can't tell from a distance. The learning curve was absolutely curving. But in my first sleeve-in, both a trial and a tribulation, because it makes it look like I'm about to do magical spells. But those are the snaps sent from hell, straight from hell. I will never use those again. Like, who is she? And I plotted my boob points. I felt like a 3D printer. The turtleneck of sweetheart necklines. Like, it looks like a manifesto. Like, it looks like the ramblings of a lunatic. The inside of the bag looks like a padded room. I wish I could live inside of these bags. There's not as much Dophin on the front as there should be. Are we anti-capitalist? Yes. But when corporations pay our bills, we love them. It was unforgiving and unforgivable. Millennials, like, why are we like this? Hey y'all, my name is Becca. I'm a comedian, writer, and all-around creative. As of the last 6 months, I've been a sewist, and that's pretty much the reason I decided to start this YouTube channel called Thrift, Stitch, Serve, because I was going over my first 6 months of sewing and I was shocked at how much stuff I made. So I decided to make this YouTube channel. I was chronicling the whole thing. I have footage of everything, but I shot it vertical because I was posting it on TikTok and my Instagram stories. So I have one video already up that is the most recent project I made. It's a camo print puffer bag. It's super cute. It's an ASMR video. Please go check that out. But for the next 3 videos, with this being the first of those 3, I will be 2 months at a time taking you through my journey of my first 6 months sewing. So this video is the first 2 months. And when I tell you, I had no idea until I started putting this video together how much I made in my first 2 months of sewing, in my first 6 months altogether. But my first 2 months, I made 4 bags, 2 hoodies, and 2 corsets. And I didn't use any patterns. I don't use patterns. I'm a Looney Tune. I draft all my own patterns. Nobody told me to do that. Like, crazy person. And I also use 100% sustainably sourced fabric. So in this video, you will see me using a little bit of supplemental fabric from my mom. I'm in her wonderful craft room right now. She's a quilter. So she has some fat quarters that I used to supplement before I had a stash. But about 2 weeks into me starting to sew, I built my own stash from the thrift store. And it was so cost effective. And also thrifting secondhand fabrics and clothing is just great for the environment. Fashion is one of the biggest polluters we have on planet Earth. So, you know, the less we can contribute to that, the better. Also, I think we can all, myself included, consume a little less. Like, this is advice I'm giving to myself. So, thrifting has always been a huge part of my life. I've been thrifting since I was a kid. And I mentioned that I'm a comedian. Thrifting is so real. Like, this is how much I mean it. I've been on Comedy Central, Netflix, HBO, and the CW, and on all of those, I've been on other things too, but on those specific appearances, I wore thrifted clothing. And some things I wore the same pink skirt that I got at a Chicago thrift store, in a Netflix episode of Easy, and on a Comedy Central recording, and a pink shirt that I wore on the Comedy Central recording with the pink skirt I wore later, last spring on the CW. So I mean it when I say it. So when I started my thrifting journey, it made sense that I would keep that thrifting as a part of it. So yeah, all of my fabrics that you'll see in these first 2 months and the next video, which will be my months 3 and 4 sewing, and the video after that, 5 and 6 months sewing, 99.9% thrifted fabric. This first video is really the only one where you'll see supplementary fabric because I didn't have a stash yet. Now my stash is too big. Because thrifting fabric is so cheap. It's most of us already have a problem, like, with stashes that are too big, and my fabric is super cheap. So, you know, it was a real issue. It was a real issue. Yeah. So that's pretty much what this video will be. Again, the videos are vertical, so they'll be somewhere over here, somewhere, and I'll be talking of them. The first 2, I don't have the raw footage, so it's literally downloaded from TikTok, and I'll be like, I guess, reading because I had captions, so I don't know how that's gonna work, but we'll see. After the 6-month video is over, the 3rd video, I'll be doing real-time videos, more like the first video I posted, which is a process video. And I don't know if I'll keep up the ASMR or if I will do voiceover. But the next project I'm doing is this beautiful green sheer silk chiffon slip dress. Because I thrift my fabric, I find a lot of what would otherwise be $40, $50 to upwards of $100 a yard chiffon in the form of vintage saris that come in 6 and 9 yard lengths at the bins. By weight, chiffon is featherweight. So this was under $1 for all of this yardage. And because of that, because I've made several trips to the Goodwill outlet bins, I have about, I would say 120 yards of beautiful high quality printed chiffon fabrics, which I'll do another video that's just me showing off my beautiful chiffons. All for a total, I would say under $25 altogether, which, like, thrifting, y'all, you gotta go to the thrift store. Just take my word for it. All right, now let's get into the video. These were originally TikToks. I was going to read the TikToks as the TikToks were next to me, like superimposed in the video, but I sounded crazy. I'll put a clip of me in there, like, it's like I'm lip syncing myself. It was very awkward. Haha. I didn't sound like a normal human person, so that I could cut out 3 sheets at the same time, much more efficient. I sounded very like sewing. This is my first day sewing. Bleep blorp, like yikes. It wasn't it. So I'm just gonna, there's gonna be captions and it's not gonna be what I'm saying for the first 2 videos. After that, I just have raw footage. Actually, no, the first 3 videos. After that, I have raw footage. So you're gonna see some captions, but is that what I'm saying? Absolutely not. It's absolutely not what I'm saying. But you're a big human. I was gonna say big girl, but I don't know who's watching this. I'm not trying to misgender anybody, am I? So here you go. This is the first bag I made. It was inspired by this bag I got from Uniqlo in Brooklyn, and I left it in Brooklyn. So it also was broken and I didn't know how to sew at the time. I could have fixed it in retrospect, but I didn't know that. So I thrifted this pink and orange duvet cover that was super cute. But before I cut into that, it was my first time using the sewing machine. I didn't want to cut into my duvet cover and mess it up. So I made a test bag first, this blue test bag, and I ended up calling Feliz Navi bag because it reminded me of the Navi people from the Avatar movie. So that's the Uniqlo bag there. It's a duvet cover. The end bag of the tie-dye bag was reversible. Very Capricorn of me. The toggles matched whichever side I was wearing on, and also thrift those straps from the bins, which are great value. I made my own pattern after watching a bunch of YouTube videos, and I picked all these fat quarters that my mom had. So the only fabric that I've ever in 6 months used that was not from the thrift store was something that my mother already had in this crazy Willy Wonka stash room. So she quilts, she has a lot of fat quarters. So I made this huge bag. It was like 15 by 18. My other bags are either 12 by 15, 12 by 12, or 9 by 9, or 6 by 6. So I made this huge bag. It was gigantic. But I made my pattern. You know, I know what a cube looks like. I know, like, you have to make your padded sides and you sew them together. And I watched a bunch of videos. So I made my dimensions. First time using Taylor's chalk. I actually ended up buying my own. As much stuff as my mom has in her sewing room that I use. A lot of stuff, you know, we all have our own practice. I had to buy my own. So I have my own very well-loved Taylor's chalk now that you can see in the other video. But hers is like, it clicks as you roll it and has like little pokes on it. So the muslin that I use is because when you have a piece of fabric and you need to stuff it, you need to have a backing. So all of my bags have muslin backing in between the fashion fabric and the lining. So yeah, I was pinning my fabric together here to cut more than one piece at a time. And actually, I still have this bag. Almost all my other bags are gone because I gave them away to people who wanted them. This one I just still have. Super cute. Like, it doesn't get much cuter than this. And this strap is from the Goodwill outlet bins. I broke my mom's sewing table in the middle of making this because she had it loaded up with stuff. And it was a flimsy table. Now she's got this awesome table that I will show later. Yeah, I had really made a few mistakes in this bag. My seam allowance was too small for my skill level, like, especially with all the stuffing, because the tension on the fabric makes the seam allowance seem even smaller than it is. And I sewed batting down. Now I only use loose batting or reclaimed batting from comforters that I get from the thrift store that I wash extremely well. But for this bag, I had a super small seam allowance. Now I do 1 inch, and I sew batting down. My sewing machine could barely handle it. I was really putting my sewing machine through a lot. So I was assembling each side, stuffing each side. I was using like a size 17 knitting needle to help me stuff all the batting in. And I was sewing so slow, like, look how cute. Now I sew like the speed of like, then it's unnecessary. It's impatience at the end of the day. But yeah, the way I did the first bag, you cannot sew quickly because I had like 3 layers of batting, 1 layer of fabric, 1 layer of muslin, and an improper needle. Let's start there. I just used whichever needle my mom already had on her machine. At this point, I have my own needles. I have needles for every occasion. I change my needle almost with every project, mainly because I'm doing different things, like stretch needles, your microtex. For my chiffon dress, I'm going to use the microtex. I have silk thread and cotton thread. I don't know which one I'm going to use yet. But at this point, I think I was using a stretch needle to sew 5 layers plus batting. Girly pop. You live and you learn. So this is where I ended the first day. I had 4 of my 5 sides assembled. I was so proud of myself. I had never made anything. And I'm like, oh my God, this was a real bag. How did you do this? I felt like a magician. Like, just call me Merlin. And all these goofy, punny names. I'm not doing that anymore, but I'm going to bring it back. Because Feliz Navi bag, like, killing it. So this is day 2 of me working on the bag. I really needed to just do, like, the lining and the handles and the inside. I needed to make D-rings too. My mom has the rings. I needed to make little straps. Yeah, the bottom side wasn't on. Rethreaded the machine, and yeah. Honestly, from the time I learned how to thread the machine, my life changed. It was, yeah, I'm just looking at the captions. Like, I felt like a 3D printer because I had never had an idea and made that thing into fruition. Just very pleased with myself. The inside of the bag looks like a padded room. I wish I could live inside of these bags. They are so fun and cute to make. And yeah, the color is not my favorite. Like, again, this bag is very precious to me because it's the first thing I made. Look at these little D-rings. Like, I feel like I was so intentional with everything for this bag. But, you know, here's the straps that I'm showing. They're different on both sides. Just adorable. I don't make my straps like this anymore either, though. I don't use 2 different fabrics. I use 1 fabric folded in half, and I use a loop turner to turn it the right side. I still use scraps for my D-rings. I think I'm at least 15 plus bags in, and now I'm just looking at this like, oh, your process has changed. I make my pockets differently. These pockets are actually pretty sturdy for my first pockets. I don't make them like this anymore either, but overall the bags are the same. Besides, like, this thing is huge. This is like a beach bag, honestly. There's one part here that's like double sewn. Like, there's a, you can't see it, but there's 2 lines. I look back and I'm like, you really did that, girly pop. The lining was baggy, yes. Now, from this too, I learned, the third thing I learned besides the seam allowance and don't sew down the batting, just stuff it with loose polyfill, is make your lining an inch smaller on all dimensions than the bag itself, so it can fit comfortably in there, and tack down the edges and top stitch around the top of the bag. When I'm sewing the bag, I do all those things. When I'm making a bag for myself, I just make the lining smaller and hope for the best. Top stitching all that batting is really difficult. Yeah, this is the end of this bag. I'm just showing it off, and now here comes Raven Bagster. We love her, don't we? AKA Hellwoods. I call her Raven Bagster though, exclusively. Well, I made Raven Bagster in 2 days. I first made Feliz Navi bag, the blue bag. Then I got immediately into cutting this duvet cover. Like, it was just so cute. I was very intentional about picking which parts of the fabric I wanted to showcase for this. And like I said, I made my changes. 1 in seam allowance. I don't do this anymore. I cut the canvas way bigger than the facing fabric, because when you have these flat puffy pieces, like each panel, sewing them together, I was having trouble lining everything up. Like my first few projects, I really couldn't figure it out. But now I cut both pieces, you know, evenly. And I was so excited about this that I was breathing super hard. I might put that audio back in, actually. I probably will. I probably will. My lining was cute too. I used fat quarters again for that. The stripe fabric is fat quarters as well. I stopped using those for my bags after I think the next one that I made, and I used all thrifted fabric. My fabric stash is out of control now too. Anyway, if you sew, you already know it's a problem. But this is the finished bag. Like, look how cute. This is like a preliminary strap I have from a hot pink purse I already owned, but it was a little too thin for the weight of the bag. So I thrifted a sturdy, thicker strap that I will show. I'll get the bag because I use this bag all the time. This is one of my main bags that I use in my life. I made it 6 months ago and it holds up. I don't wear it every single day, but I would say every second or third time I go out, I have Raven Bagster on my shoulder, and people love it. When I was delivering the bags, so I was making a lot of them and giving them to comedians, so I'd have them at comedy shows. Constant Questions. That's the thicker strap. And because I get them by weight at the bins, they're extremely cheap. This is my third project. My mom showed me this hand knit bag with chunky yarn that was going around. I was like, I can do that. I'll make the yarn myself. Will you? And this is just me. These are some comedians with the bag. Just everybody wants to see the bag. Oh, this is a thrift trip. I went to a thrift store in the suburbs and they had an entire craft section. Knitting needles, quilt packages, a sale on craft items. There's another thrift trip to, I believe, a Salvation Army. I still have that beautiful fabric. And this is the wool trench I got from the bins for, I think by weight, it was about $1.10 to make my own chunky yarn. I cut this fabric into strips, which took forever. Everything about this project took forever, okay? It took forever. I cut it into strips, sewed it. I learned how to sew very straight doing this project. I sewed about, it had to be a mile about it, but like dozens of feet of this fabric folded in half, and then had to turn it right side. This fabric has no give. It's easy to turn fabric with give. This fabric has no give into a giant ball of yarn that I'm palming towards the ceiling in this clip. But all worth it, because I made this bag, which I ended up calling Kermit the Bag, aka Little Edamame. And I hand knit it. I do knit. As you can see, there's yarn everywhere. I've been knitting since I was a child. I'm not a big knitter anymore. I only knit when I want to give somebody a gift. Like I made a scarf for my ex. I make things for babies when people have babies on the way. But other than that, I'm not a big knitter. But I hand knit this bag together and you have to flip it. It's giving Eldritch horror in that shot. I thought it was gorgeous. The handle was a little limp the way I did it at first. It wasn't stuffed or braided. So I braided it and it was just looking a little flat for me. So I ended up stuffing the handle after this. And the hole that I had in the handle with a little piece, I stuffed it with pieces of the polyester too. It looked like edamame to me. Or like a bowl if you... Oh, this is a knitting project. My friend, the manager of Laugh Factory, is having a baby. So I knit him a very simple, just one stitch across, very simple blanket for his baby. That's my yarn in Raven Bagster, like crafts on crafts. Oh, this is the first hoodie, my first wearable. It used to be a tablecloth and a pillowcase. So I made up my own pattern too. I make my own patterns. Like I have to make everything so difficult. So I cloned a hoodie that I had thrifted. I had an eBay store for a while. I was trying to like be a reseller. I actually made good money, but it was too tedious for me. I couldn't do it. Would I recommend it? I don't know. Anyway, I cloned this hoodie. It was oversized, and I needed it to be oversized because the material I was making the hoodie out of had no stretch. So I needed something that was easy to get on and off without stretching. Clone the hoodie. This is one of the first sewing tools I bought. I bought one of those pokey roly spinny things, and I made my own hood pattern. I was so proud of myself. And I picked intentionally the borders of the tablecloth pattern to use as the borders of the hoodie. So the borders of the tablecloth, I was listening to Sabrina Carpenter, you gotta do it. The borders of the tablecloth that has that like dense pattern are on the ends of the sleeves, the bottom of the hem, and around the outer facing of the hood. And it just looks so beautiful and intentional when it's all together. I was really, really proud of this. And I liked the pattern gets less dense as you go up. So, you know, the front and the back, sewing those together, piece of cake. Putting my first sleeve in, both a trial and a tribulation. Putting my first sleeve in really took something out of me. I do my sleeves differently now. I just sew the shoulders and then I sew the sleeve in flat and then sew down the sleeve and the side where possible. But I didn't do that this time. I made this hood. I put this really pretty plaid pillowcase in the lining and look how good that looks. For my first wearable, I was shook. I could not believe I made this. And the material is a little synthetic. Like it's very, I wouldn't say it feels like you're wearing a tablecloth, but it feels like you're wearing material that's not supposed to be a hoodie. But I wore it multiple times. I wore it, I think, twice that week. That's me and Raven Bagster. And I think I was calling this hoodie Thumper the Jumper. Because it reminded me of like Bambi and like the characters from Bambi. So this is like my favorite hand motion. I was recording content. I do comedy for OnlyFans. It's like, how is that even a job? But it's a corporation and they're trying to widen their appeal. So I was shooting content for them, which is just me posting about sewing and jokes and stuff. And that is my second hoodie that I was gonna make. It's called the Urban Mage hoodie. I made it out of a Pashmina headscarf and a few bits and bobs. I think a pillowcase. That's my pokey roly thing. I don't know what it's called, but because I primarily draft my own patterns, I think I've used one pattern and I mainly used it to alter into something else. That thing, I use it all the time. I use it all the time. For my second hoodie, I wanted to make my hood bigger. I want it to be, you know, like, I want to feel like Lil Ray Riding Hood. So I drafted this huge hoodie, this huge hood. The front and back, I think, besides like truing them to each other, I kept it the same. Those are denim pants from the bins. Those are animal print denim pants from the bins that I use as the sleeves for this. Like, girl, who are you? So I did the same thing where I used the border print for the hem. Using the border print for the hood of this was a style choice. I don't know if I would repeat because it makes it look like I'm about to do magical spells. I had to bust the beads off the seam allowance because they couldn't go through the sewing machine. So I had to take those off, put my pins in. If you can see the border print along the hood, makes it look like there's jewels and gems. And that I'm like, you know, the runes are changing. I feel very mystical when I wear this, which is why it's called the Urban Mage hoodie. One of my first sewing tools. I got a, whatever those are called. My rulers. I have a French curve ruler. I have so many of those. I have hip curve, French curves, pattern masters. So that was a sheet that I've used for another project that is in the lining of the hoodie. Okay, a mistake I made on this. I interlined the Pashmina fabric with muslin because I thought it was going to be too droopy and weightless. Mistake. I ended up cutting all that out. This hoodie needed to be droopy and weightless because it was very restrictive with the muslin inside. Like, I felt like I was being packed in. But I love how this turned out. It is so cute. I don't wear this enough. I wear Thumper the Jumper, but I don't wear this one enough. And that's on me. That's my bad. Because this thing is cute. I've had people want to buy this, and I'm like, oh, it is one of a kind, and I can't give it to you. The pockets never got put on there. I never put the pockets on. The sleeve assembly of this was another trial and tribulation. Not putting it in, but getting it to fit. I didn't understand. Now if I wanted to make a top, I made several tops since my first 2 months. Mostly mesh like this. I didn't make this, but this is one of my favorite types of shirt, like turtleneck, mesh. And I made them all cropped. Like, I know how to make sleeves now. I didn't understand sleeve shape, so I was just snipping and cutting. Didn't understand. I had to cut into those pant legs a million times to get that right. But did I get it right? Yes, this is another thrift trip. I still have these pieces and I haven't used them for anything. Just multiply that by most of what I've thrifted. Oh, I did use those Dophin pillowcases. The next bag is my first gift bag I made for someone. There's a comedian I love in town, and I wanted to make her a bag. I think she's fantastic, and she's doing really great. So I made her this bag that is like the little sister to Raven Bagster. I call it Lizzie Baguire. I'm very clever. Here's the thing, in my stand-up, I hate puns. But in my sewing, as a sewist, I'm very punny. Like, I just can't get enough of it for some reason. So same process, I was really intentional about picking what parts of the pattern I wanted to show. I like those big sunbursts. So I did the muslin, and I had like perfected my process by this point. I'm using pattern weights, like who is she? Like, and as you see, that Taylor's chalk is a new chalk I bought. I have different colors. And these are fat quarters. This is, I think, the last time I used fat quarters for my lining, but I wanted to incorporate every color from the outside of the bag into the lining. My first and only time using snaps. My mom had these plastic snaps. They are difficult to use, difficult to put in. They break when you install them. No. But look how straight my sewing is. After making that huge ball of polyester green yarn for that hand knit chunky yarn bag, I had gotten pretty good for being, I think I was maybe 3 weeks, not even into sewing at this point, at sewing straight lines. And I love these. Like, I love the puff. I wish I could live inside the puff bag. Like, every time I make one, to this day, 6 months later, I'm like, I want to live here. I just love these. This was like a pillowcase for a long body pillow that I thrifted. Just gorgeous placement. I really, really love how this bag turns out. She uses it all the time. She posts on her Instagram stories. Those are the D-rings. Those are the straps. That's how I make my straps now. 2 long, wide strips folded in half. So down, use my loop turner. And I have like 5 different methods for loop turner now. I've bought so many loop turners, and I end up using a safety pin most of the time. But those are the snaps sent from hell, straight from hell. I will never use those again. And I'm about to attach the lining with the straps in, the snaps in, which she says the snap still works. I don't know how. It barely worked when I put it in. But yeah, the way you have to assemble the lining is right sides facing, but with both inside out. And look how good that looks like. By this point, I had my process down. I have the same initial strap that I used for Raven Bagster from this pink clutch I have, but I found a yellow strap. Oh, that's my first time I used my tag. Camp I oughta know. It stands for I am the only normal one. It's pronounced I oughta know. My tag looks way better than that. And this fabric has some pilling on it, so I had to do that before I really got into sewing. But I found her a really nice yellow strap at the bins that went so perfectly with this bag. I absolutely love how it turned out. Yeah, it just turned out really good, and I'm really glad. This is the first time I gave something to somebody that I made, so I was just really proud of myself, and I'm glad she gets good use out of it. I even love the pockets on that one. Like, yeah. Some of these bags that I'm going to get into in the second video, like there's a cow print bag. I have a series of camo bags, camo puffers. I have not made any for myself, but I have enough fabric because a lot of them were like pillowcase sets or whatever. I'm going to make some for myself. This, I drafted my own pattern. I was making a corset. I had a button-down shirt that hit the crop where I wanted to. I put a dart in it and decided that's how you make a pattern. And then I mapped my dart out. I used my pokey roly thing to trace the front panel of the shirt. And that's what I came up with. Look at how much... my early patterns that I made, and you can see here, like all my patterns are hanging up back here, or a lot of them. Some are stacked somewhere else. I wrote so much on it. It looked like a manifesto. Like, it looks like the ramblings of a lunatic. Now the writing on my patterns are very sparse, but like girly pop. I needed to have it straight. Like, it was my first time doing it. And like, look, know what I know now? That wasn't wrong. It just wasn't right. That's the Starry Night sheet I found at the bins, and I've used that twice. I actually made a corset for a friend that I'm dropping off to her soon, and I used that for her as well. So 2 corsets out of that, and I still got a lot of fabric. Though these, look at this pillowcase. Look at this pillowcase. It needs to be on my body. I made a few mistakes with this, And there's not as much Dophin on the front as there should be because of that, but worth it, worth it. My first time using a tailor's ham. I think that's one of the second round of my own sewing tools I have. I sew a lot of wearables now. I put the Sweetheart neckline on it. So I had to use a lot of tailor's hams for this, for doing the seams and making sure everything lays flat. Both sides of this look so good. I sewed my channels. Those are zip ties, okay? I sewed in I pounded in my first grommets. The learning curve was absolutely curving, but this thing turned out beautiful. That is the back of the strips for the tie for the corsets, the back of the Dophin pillowcase, and that blue is another pillowcase I thrifted. And look how beautiful this thing turned out. I had to take in the sides like angularly to get it to fit right, but other than that, my first pattern fit beautifully. The first wearable pattern that I made for a corset fit. Look at that. I could not believe that I made the pattern, drafted it myself, and it fit like that. Like, I felt like I could do anything. I'm wearing this again. So I actually wore this to a taping. I had a taping that was like LMAOF. Again, OnlyFans trying to go mainstream. We love them over here. We love corporations that pay our bills. Are we anti-capitalist? Yes. But when corporations pay our bills, we love them. And look at the dolphins. My only regret is because the neckline, when I first drew it, it was like the turtleneck of Sweetheart necklines. Like, nobody wants a Sweetheart neckline up to here. So I had to cut the dolphin down. My greatest regret. There's an OnlyFans LOL puns. Man, do I love puns? Crap. I think I might. I didn't know this about myself until I started sewing. So this is my first stretch corset. Again, drafted my own pattern. I used a turtleneck, mock neck stretch crop that I liked, and I plotted my boob points, how high up I wanted the top to go. And I wanted the top to be like a scoop that comes to a point and then goes down under the arm. Mapped that sucker out and began to sew. I used my French curves. Man, these things, I use these all the time. I've made slip dresses. I've made all sorts of patterns. I make my own patterns like an absolute Looney Tune. And I use this to map out the depth. I use the Dophin corset to map out the depth I wanted the cleavage. Because the cleavage was a little high and I wanted my scoop to scoop. I wanted it to scoop out. My two fabrics were, I actually found some yardage at the thrift store from Joann's. You can see it on the selvage. Beautiful, beautiful paisley. Deep blues, bright blues, and this color. This is one of my favorite colors. The accents were this sort of neon pink. It was sort of maybe a deeper fuchsia. The other side was a bodycon dress that I got to wear. Let's see, that's the paisley. Wear over the summer. My size, but did it fit right? No. It was unforgiving and unforgivable. So I cut that sucker up and turned it into one side of a corset. There it is right there. One of my next sewing tool purchases after the hams and whatnot was my pink electric scissors. I use those almost every day. Every day that I'm sewing and I'm cutting, I'm using my pink electric scissors. I broke my first needle. I bought my own stretch needles. So as I progress, my mom has a lot of sewing things, but we sew different things. My first time using the zigzag stitch, so I had to test my stitches. My first time using a stretch needle, I had to buy my own stretch needles. She makes quilts, my mom, and a lot of children's clothing and a lot of like baggy, moms. A lot of mom silhouetted things. Unfortunately I'm less of a bodycon girl, but ultimately I'm a bodycon girl. So I had to buy the tools to make the things that I would wear, and I needed to make wearables that I would wear. So this is my first time sewing stretch together, and boy did it go great. I think I took the neckline down a second time because millennials, like, why are we like this? Like, I feel like Gen Z likes baggy, Gen X likes baggy, and there's millennials in the middle being sluts. Like, what's wrong with us? I put some interfacing along the top to keep it rigid. I kept that in. I know for a later corset, one I made for my friend Audrey that was not stretched, I took the interfacing out because it didn't really work with the fabric I used. You could see the blue dots. But for this, it worked excellent. I didn't need to tailor's hem as much because the fabric was stretchy, but I did pink the insides even though this fabric doesn't fray. I did tailor's hand, but the stretch fabric sort of handles itself with the hamming and whatnot. And there's, once I had put the two sides together, I made a mistake with this. I drew on it with fabric markers, thinking it was the sort of erasable fabric markers, but no, it was markers specifically for drawing permanently on fabric, and I can't get it out. I asked the dry cleaner, and they were like, "Why'd you use fabric marker?" I thought it meant fabric marker, like, anyway. I didn't do grommets for this because the idea of putting grommets in stretch fabric gave me heart palpitations. So I did loops. I used that same back of the pillowcase that I used to make the edge binding of the Dophin corset. And I edge binded that Dophin corset sort of quilt style. I didn't really do it bias tape style. Putting those in was a breeze. I just sewed them between, you can see I notched out centimeter marks and put those in. And for the tie in the back, I just used a thrifted, there's a cat in the tree looking so cute. I used a thrifted scarf that I found, a really thin scarf. For my edge binding, I went back and forth. I almost used this pink skirt that I thrifted. It was Black History Month brand. Who knows? We love, but like, I'm confused. And the channels, I used the contrasting color from the Paisley. It looked really good on both sides. But I ended up using these thrifted pants that I had that were velvet. Again, every time I make a corset now, I take in the sides like this because it always needs to be done. To get it to fit right, it always needs to be done. But when I say this boy fit right, this boy fit great. Look at that. I still love the way this thing looks flat and on the body. Like, talk about hanger appeal. Here's the velvet. I think I had to interface this. At this point, this was months ago. I believe I had to interface this to make it go on properly because velvet is very... I think now I could work with velvet, but at the time, I could not work with velvet, keeping it pinned, keeping it flat, making sure each side, each layer was sandwiched in. Oh, yeah, I interfaced it. And I had to do it twice because I was trying to, like, Frankenstein together a bunch of interfacing. But interfacing has a weft and a weave, too. And it has, you know, it stretches this way, it doesn't stretch this way. So I had to make sure it was the way it would stretch that I needed to because this is a stretch piece. Line that up with the velvet, and we were off to the races. Look at how good that looks with the velvet edge binding on it. Velvet edge binding, leopard prints, tie, and look at the fit. I think the fit is coming up. Honestly, my channels are a little wonky on this one, but you can't tell from a distance. You can't tell from a distance. Like, look at this. Look at this. I love this piece. I wore this to a show. I think that was the outfit I wore to the show. Yeah, I just love it. I wore it on the Paisley side. Okay, so there's a bag that will be in a future video. It's cow prints from a sheet I thrifted and lime slime green inside. It kind of is giving Beetlejuice with the black, white, and the lime green. There's me and Raven Bagster in the corset I made. That's the show I did. And like, look at the fit I got on this. Honestly, for my third wearable, all three of my wearables I made with no pattern. No pattern. I'm like, you're some sort of sewing prodigy. Now, after this, I did run into some issues with some other projects, but for my first 2 months of sewing, I'm like, how did these things turn out so good? How did they turn out so good? I was so proud of myself. I wore this thing multiple times. Look how wonky the channels are. I didn't really map my channels out well. And when I put it on, they stretched, like the bust area made them stretch wider. So even though the channels look flat, when it's flat, they look straight when it's flat. When I put it on, it warps. This is my first and last trip to Joann's. I am a thrift gal. I have not gotten anything from a fabric store. My mom loves Joann's, and so this is when they were going out of business. Or this is like when the rumor hit, so we went to go check out if they had any sales. I was not impressed. So this is me draping. I have not made any of these dresses that I draped, but I had an obsession with this sort of like organza voile fabric. I've made down the line several bags out of it, sheer bags. But that zebra print draped dress we're coming back to her. Even though I think I want to make like a button jacket and mini skirt set out of that. And I have zebra print satin that I want to make a slip dress to wear under that. And these are just some pieces that I had that I wanted to drape. This is my first time ever draping that you're seeing in this video. And this is a silk shirt. It's not real silk. It's like a chiffon, poly chiffon. This was a chiffon burnout velvet that I still have. I want to make a slip dress from. I don't have enough fabric, so I'm going to have to supplement it. And I was just hanging different things to see what would be best to supplement it with and hanging on the bias. So yeah, sewing experiments. And that concludes my first 2 months sewing. It went by as quickly for me as it did for you. At the end of the first 2 months, I made 3 wearables. I made several bags, and I couldn't look back. As you can see from the back here, there are so many patterns hanging for dresses and tops. You know, you'll see in the coming videos. I've made so many things in 6 months, mainly for myself. I make gifts for people, bags, and I make clothing for myself. I've had so much fun with this. I wanted to show this off. This is one of my most recent pieces. I started making bikini tops. It's getting warm outside. I cloned a bikini I already had. There's elastic on the sides of this inside the sheer. This is sheer double layered. It was a Shein top that I thrifted. When I decided to start making swimwear, I needed it to be 4-way stretch, so I got a lot of like synthetic fabrics. The backing is another 4-way stretch shirt, and I made the straps as well. I sewed them right sides together with a piece of elastic, then loop turn the whole thing and put a knot at the end. And like, look how cute. It fits great too. You'll see this in a later video, but it was in the background, so I just wanted to show it. This is Raven Bagster in the flesh. I actually, so cute. Like, I wear this all the time. Also made this shirt. It was like a overlay shirt. It was, you'll see that video. You'll see that in like a later video. But when I say I wear this all the time, this little bag here is what I got the strap from. So I just kind of clipped it on the outside for no particular reason. And I put like makeup in here. But Raven Bagster is full. Like, she's got stuff in there because I actually wear this bag constantly. Like, this is one of my main bags of life. It's just so cute. Like, get out of here. Like, how cute is she? How cute is she? All right, back to regularly scheduled nonsense. Remember that sewing table I broke? This is a new one. It's 2 shelves and a slab from IKEA with a sewing mat on top. It is so sturdy. It doesn't move whatsoever. It's brilliant. What a brilliant idea. Much better than a folding table. You've seen a few examples of me actually wearing things that I've made on stage. And I just feel like it's just me combining all of my creativity to make something amazing. You know, I do my own hair, I do my own nails, do my own makeup. Not for on camera. Like, they have makeup people for on camera. But like, I feel like just these tactile skills on top of my performance, it just makes you feel so fulfilled and creative. And I hope that you will stay tuned for the rest of my journey. You saw some peeks of things to come. This, some silk slip dresses, the cow print bag. But I hope you'll stay tuned because I have a lot more to catch you up on my next video, which is months 3 and 4 of my sewing. Then the next video after that will be months 5 and 6. Then we'll be all caught up and I will be showing you in real time the projects that I'm working on. And that green silk chiffon dress is next. I will show the fabric before this video is over. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to Thrift, Stitch, and Thumper. Okay, I didn't like the link. Please like and subscribe to Thrift, Stitch. Please like this video and subscribe to my new channel, Thrift, Stitch, Serve. I don't know why I named it that because it's really difficult to say quickly. Thrift, Stitch, Serve. It's like very like, there's a lot of consonants. I already made the logo and banner on Canva, so it's too late. It's too late. That's what it's called. You're welcome.